So in the second part, we will compare two means. As we were earlier seeing only one sample, now it would be two sample, and we will go all points one by one. So now we will learn about the two sample problems. What if we want to compare the means of some quantitative variable for two populations, and population 1 and population 2. So our parameter of interest are the population means, that is mu1 and mu2. The best approach is to take separate random samples from each population and to compare the sample means. And suppose we want to compare the average effectiveness of two treatments in a completely randomized experiment. In this case, the parameter mu1 and mu2 are the true mean responses for treatment 1 and treatment 2 respectively. So we use the mean response from each of the two groups to make the comparison, and here is a table that summarizes this situation. So population or treatment 1, parameter mu1, statistics x bar 1, sample size n1, and population treatment 2, mu2, x bar 2 and n2. So now we will learn about the two sample T procedures. When data come from two random samples or two groups in a randomized experiment, the statistics x1 minus x2 is our best guess for the value of mu1 minus mu2. So now the question arises why we are subtracting. So for two sample T procedures, because we are comparing two means. So for the comparing, null hypothesis is mu1 is equal to mu2. So if mu1 is equal to mu2, that is, if we subtract mu1 minus mu1 from mu2, it should be subtract value should be 0. So it would show that there is no difference. So that is the reason we are subtracting here. So when the two samples are independent of each other, the standard deviation of the statistics is x1 minus x2. Sigma x1 minus x2 is equal to root sigma square 1 divided by n1 plus sigma square 2 divided by n2. Here we can see we can compare it with matched pair, and one can get confused, but in that matched pair t-test we have seen that they are the dependent, because we are taking if pre and post values or something related to that, but they are all dependent to each other. But here it's written that when two samples are independent of each other, and we know particularly when the two samples are independent. So for variance, we know that if we are subtracting, we are going to add both the variances. So similarly, we got this value by adding, and because this is independent, so we are not adding covariance. So this would be the formula for standard deviation for x1 minus x2. So now, since we don't know the value of parameter sigma 1 and sigma 2, so we will replace it with the standard deviation with the sample standard deviation, that is S. And the result is the standard error of the statistics x1 minus x2. And now only symbols are changed, and it's just showing you that we are using standard deviation of the sample because we don't know the value of standard deviation of the population. So we standardize the observed difference to obtain a t-statistics that tell us how far the observed difference is from its mean in standard deviation units. So now for the t-test, we will get our formula x1 minus x2 divided by root s1 square divided by n1 plus s2 square divided by n2. So the two sample t-statistics has approximately a t-distribution. We can use technology to determine degree of freedom, or we can use a conservative approach using the smaller of n1 minus 1 and n2 minus 1 for the degree of freedom. Now for two sample t interval for a difference between means, when the random, normal and independent conditions are met, a level C confidence interval for mu1 minus mu2 is x1 minus x1 bar minus x2 bar plus minus t multiplied by the same standard deviation we got from the earlier, that is root s1 square divided by n1 plus s2 square divided by n2, and this is t critical, where t is the critical value of the confidence level C for the t distribution with degrees of freedom either obtained from technology or equal to the smaller of n1 minus 1 and n2 minus 2. So here's the example for two sample t procedure, and an educator believed that new directed reading activities in the classroom will help elementary school pupils improve some aspects of their reading ability, and she arranges for third grade class of 21 students to take part in these activities of an 8-week period. A control classroom of 23 third graders followed the same curriculum without the activities. At the end of the 8 weeks, all students are given a DRP test, which measures aspects of reading ability that the treatment is designed to improve. And here's the data we got from that test. And one particular thing that we can see here is N1 and N2 are different in treatment group and control group. So our parameter of interest are mu1, that is a true mean using the reading activities, and mu2, the true mean without using the reading activities. And we want to estimate the difference mu1 minus mu2 at a 95% confidence level. And we should use a two sample t interval for mu1 minus mu2 if the conditions are satisfied. So first is random. It was impractical to assign students to classes in a school environment, so existing third class classes were used. The effect of the reading program is therefore confounded with any other differences between two classes. Extensive pre-testing showed that the two classes were on average quite similar in reading ability at the beginning of the experiment. Further, the same teacher was used in both classes. So now here we can see that for the normality, the back-to-back stem plot suggests there is a mild outlier in the control group, but no deviation from normality serious enough to forbid the use of t procedure. So now all the conditions are nearly satisfied. We can construct a two sample t interval for the difference mu1 minus mu2, and we will use the conservative degree of freedom 21 minus 1 is equal to 20. So now in the formula we will keep all the values, and we calculated that the confidence interval we got from 1 to 18.9. And for that confidence interval, we know that for t critical value, that is 2.086, we have seen for degree of freedom 20, and probability is 0.025. So we are 95% confident that the interval from 1 to 18.9 captures the true difference in the DRP means of two groups. Now two sample t-test for the difference between two means. Suppose the random, normal and independent conditions are met. To test the hypothesis, null hypothesis is mu1 minus mu2 is equal to 0, that there is no difference. We compute the t statistics as by given this formula as we have seen earlier. Find the p-value by calculating the probability of getting a t statistics this large or larger in the direction specified by the alternate hypothesis, and use a t distribution with degrees of freedom approximate by the technology or smaller of n1 minus 1 and n2 minus 1. So it's saying whatever is the smaller degree of freedom. If n1 is 20 or n2 is 15, so we subtract, so we will take the smaller one. And here we have seen earlier in earlier chapter, in earlier slides, these alternate hypothesis and how we are going to understand it. If mu1 minus mu2 is greater than hypothesized value, it's in the right tail, and if it's lower then it's on the left tail. And when we are not specifically defining the direction, then it would be in the two-tailed. So now we are considering the same example, and as before the conditions are nearly met, so we will carry out the test, and we want to perform a test that null hypothesis is mu1 minus mu2 is equal to 0, whereas alternate hypothesis is it is greater than 0, where mu1 is equal to true mean using the directed reading activities, and the mu2 is the true mean without using the directed reading activities, and we will use alpha equal to 0.05. So here we are going to put all the values, and for x1 minus x2 minus mu1 minus mu2, that is equal to 0, and we are going to put all the values, and we got t as 2.31. In the table we can see that it's 2.31 is in between the 2.197 and 2.528 for the degree of freedom 20. And p-value using the conservative DF, that is 21 minus 1, that is 20, we can use table D to show that the p-value is between 0.01 and 0.02. So because the p-value is now smaller than 0.05, thus we reject the null hypothesis, and the experiment provides convincing evidence that directed reading activities improving the DRP score. So the robustness of the two sample procedures, except in the case of small samples, the condition that the data are SRS from the population of interest is more important than the condition that the population distributions are normal. Some of the sample sizes less than 15 use T procedures is if the data appear close to normal and if the data are clearly skewed or if outliers are present. Do not use T. Some of the sample size at least 15. The T procedures can be used except in the presence of outliers or strong skewness. And when we talk about large samples, the T procedures can be used even for clearly skewed distribution when the sum of the sample size is large. So inference for small samples, when we do not have enough observation to examine distribution shapes, only extreme outliers will stand out. These small samples require special care, and for that the power of significance tests tend to be low and margin of error of confidence interval tends to be large. And if an effect is large, it should still be evident even with small sample size. So here is the exact distribution of the two sample T statistics is not a T distribution, and the distribution changes as the unknown population standard deviations change. However, an excellent approximation is available. So approximate distribution of two sample T statistics for the degree of freedom, here we can see the distribution of two sample T statistics is closely to the T distribution with degrees of freedom given by this complex formula. So here we can see this approximation is accurate when both sample sizes are 5 or larger. So it has a condition that its sample sizes should be 5 or larger. Most of the time we use statistical software, so we can for learning purpose use this formula, but generally we use statistical software. Now for the two sample procedures, there are two different two sample procedures. And one is assuming equal variance, that is pooled two sample test, and one that assume not equal variance, that is unequal variance, as we have studied for the two populations. And they have slightly different formulas and degree of freedom. So two normally distributed population with unequal variances, and the pooled equal variance two sample T test was often used before computers because it has exactly the T distribution for degrees of freedom n1 plus n2 minus 2, and this makes sense because if we have two samples from two different populations, so we have one n1 then n2, and for degree of freedom we can do n1 minus 1 and n2 minus 2, so it would be n1 plus n2 minus 2. However, the assumption of equal variance is difficult to check, thus the unequal variance test is safer. So there are different test statistics from which we can check if variance is equal or unequal, but this is not in the course, so we will learn in later courses. So here are the pooled two sample procedures. Suppose both populations are normal and they have the same standard deviations. The pooled estimator of sigma square is s square, and here we are representing it with small p, and it is n1 minus 1 multiplied by s1 square plus n2 minus 1 s2 square divided by n1 plus n2 minus 2. And for confidence interval for mu1 minus mu2, it's x1 bar minus x2 bar plus minus t critical, and there is a standard deviation, and multiplied by under root 1 by n1 plus 1 by n2, where degree of freedom from t critical are n1 plus n2 minus 2. To test the hypothesis, we use mu1 is equal to mu2 against a one-sided or two-sided alternatives. Compute the pooled two sample t statistics for the t n1 plus n2 minus 2 distribution, and this t is equal to x1 minus x2 divided by sp under root 1 n1 plus 1 by n2. So here's the example. Does increasing the amount of calcium in our diet reduce blood pressure? And randomized comparative experiment gave one group of 10 black men a calcium supplement for 12 weeks and a control group of 11 black men placebo that appeared identical. The summary statistics are given below for the decreased in blood pressure. So for calcium group, it was n is 10, placebo 11, and mean and standard deviation. So now we will put all the values in the formula and we get 7.385. So to test the hypothesis against a one-sided or two-sided alternative, we compute the pooled two sample t statistics, and now we have all the values. So t value we got is 1.634, and the p value from statistical software is 0.059, and we conclude that there is some evidence but not convincing evidence. Why we are saying right now that some evidence? Because it is near to 0.05, but it is not that much clear. So it is, we are stating that it is some evidence but not convincing evidence. Now we will cover about the other topics. So choosing the sample size. Our primary method of choosing sample size for studies involves specifying the desired margin of error. So the level C confidence interval for a mean mu will have an expected margin for error less than or equal to specified value m when the same size satisfies m is greater than or equal to t critical, and s is the estimated value for the population standard deviation divided by root n. So for the t procedures, we have the following strategy. Get an initial sample size by replacing t critical with z critical, and compute n that is equal to z critical multiplied by s star, that is the estimated value for the population standard deviation divided by m whole square, and round up to the nearest integer. Use the sample size to obtain t critical and check if m is greater than or equal to that value. And if the requirement is not satisfied, increase n by 1 and repeat step 2, otherwise stop. So this is the procedure for choosing the sample size. Now the power of one sample t-test. The power of the one sample t-test for a specific alternative value for the population mean mu, assuming a fixed significance level alpha, is the probability that the test will reject the null hypothesis when the alternative value of the mean is true. So calculation of the exact power of t-test is a bit complex, but an approximate calculation that acts as if sigma were known is almost always adequate for planning a study. This calculation is very much like that for the z-test. We have earlier seen in the z-test how to calculate power. So when guessing sigma, it is always better to err on the side of a standard deviation that is little larger rather than smaller. And we want to avoid failing to find an effect because we did not have enough data. So assume that the significance level of a two sample t-test is fixed at alpha, then the power of test for a specific alternative value of the difference in population mean is the probability that the test will reject the null hypothesis when the alternative is true. So the basic concept is similar to for the one sample t-test, and the exact method involves the non-central redistribution, though calculations are carried out with software. One needs information from a pilot study or previous research to calculate an expected power for a t-test, which allows one to Now for the two sample t-test, for the pooled two sample t-test with parameter mu1 and mu2 and the common standard deviation sigma, we need to specify an alternative that would be important to detect, that is mu1 minus mu2, the sample size n1 n2, the type 1 error for fixed significance level, and guess for the standard deviation sigma. And we find the degree of freedom is n1 plus n2 minus 2 and the value of t critical that will lead to rejection of null hypothesis. So then we calculate non-centrality parameter, that is equal to mod mu1 minus mu2 divided by sigma under root 1 by n1 plus 1 by n2.